They said she was an outdated weapon, said I was just another human ready for conversion. But when I looked into that prisoner's golden eyes and told her she was beautiful, the universe shifted. Because humanity has something they'll never understand. We remember, we feel, and that's why we fight. Ever felt like pain was the only thing keeping you real? Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from. And if you're into stories that hit deep, don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next. I told her she was beautiful, and she looked at me like I'd just declared war on physics itself. That's how I knew I was already too far gone to pull back. The thing about losing everything is that it makes you honest in ways that terrify people. No filter, no self-preservation, just truth, raw and ugly, and somehow the only thing left that felt real. Her name was Kirath, though I didn't learn that until later. What I learned first was the way her scales caught the dim light of the detention block, iridescent even under the grey-white LEDs that made everything else look like a corpse. Emerald and copper and something darker, like old bronze left in rain. She was chained to the wall across from my cell, wings folded tight against her back, and the Dominion guards had been very clear. She was a war criminal, a relic from conflicts older than my grandfather, and she was scheduled for conversion processing in 6 days. Conversion. That's what the Saurian Dominion called it when they stripped a mind down to obedience and reassembled it into something useful. I'd seen the aftermath once, back on Titan Station before everything collapsed. A Cathara poet turned into a logistics drone, eyes empty, speaking in requisition codes. They said it didn't hurt. They were lying. I'd been in that cell for 3 weeks, ever since the diplomatic mission went sideways and the Dominion decided I knew too much about human military movements to be released. Which was hilarious, because I'd stopped caring about military movements around the same time my daughter stopped breathing. Radiation sickness, slow and ugly, colony medical supplies stretched too thin, and I was off-world negotiating mineral rights, like any of it mattered. She was 9. The message reached me 40 minutes after her funeral. That was 2 years ago. Everything after that was just momentum. So when they threw me into detention next to a dragon woman who'd apparently fought in 3 wars and lived long enough to be discarded by her own people, I didn't see a monster. I saw someone who understood what it meant to be left over. She didn't speak for the first week. Neither did I. We just existed in that gray space, her breathing slow and deep, a rhythm like distant thunder, me staring at the ceiling and counting the hours until my own conversion date. They'd scheduled me for 8 days out, 2 days after her. Efficient. It was the 7th night when I finally said it. She'd been sitting very still, staring at her claws. They were massive, dark as obsidian, filed down by the guards, so she couldn't use them as weapons. There was something about the way she held them, though, careful and deliberate, like she was trying to remember what they used to feel like when they were whole. "You're beautiful," I said. It came out quiet, not romantic or calculated, just an observation. The kind of thing you say when you've forgotten how to lie. Her head turned slowly, golden eyes narrowing. Slit pupils contracted to threads. When she spoke, her voice was like gravel wrapped in silk, the translator implant rendering her Dominion dialect into flat English that didn't quite capture the growl underneath. "Do you mock me, human?" I sat up, chains clinking. "No. I am old, past breeding age by 17 seasons. My scales thin, my wings lose membrane integrity. I am no longer desired, no longer viable, no longer—" She stopped, jaw clenching. "You are either cruel or simple." "I'm tired," I said, "and I mean it. You're beautiful." Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to solve an equation that didn't balance. "Why?" I leaned back against the wall. "Because you are. Because you've survived things that should have killed you. Because you're sitting here chained to a wall, and you still hold yourself like you remember what freedom felt like. Because—" I exhaled. Because I've spent 2 years surrounded by people who are technically alive, and I haven't seen anyone actually be anything in so long I forgot what it looked like. Silence. Long enough that I thought maybe I'd just made everything worse. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. It was a rough sound, sharp-edged and bitter, but real. "You are broken," she said. "Yeah." "Good. Whole things are useless here." She shifted her wings, chains scraping. "I am Kirath, formerly of the Third Talon, formerly of the Ember Courts, formerly of many things that no longer matter. Marcus Webb, formerly a father, formerly someone who gave a shit." Her gaze softened just slightly. "What happened to your child?" "Dead. Colony medical failure. I wasn't there." She nodded slowly. Like that explained everything. Maybe it did. "And now they will erase you," she said. "Convert you into a tool. You will forget her entirely." "That's the idea. And you are not afraid?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. I'm more afraid of remembering. At least if they wipe me clean, it stops hurting. Kirath made a sound deep in her chest. Something between a growl and a hum. "You are a fool, Marcus Webb. Memory is all we have. Pain is proof we loved something enough to lose it. That's a nice philosophy. Doesn't make it hurt less." "No," she agreed. "It does not." We sat in silence after that, but it was different now. Less empty. She'd given me her name, her losses, and in return I'd given her the truth. I was hollowed out and waiting to disappear. The next morning, the guards came for her. 3 of them, Saurian Dominion enforcers, scaled and efficient, moving with the kind of precision that came from doing this 1,000 times before. They unhooked her chains from the wall, but left her wrists bound, wings clamped with neural dampeners that made her flinch when they activated. "Processing has been moved up," the lead guard said. Not to her, just into the air like she was cargo. "Compliance review flagged psychological resistance. Conversion scheduled for tonight." Kirath didn't struggle, didn't roar or fight or beg. She just stood, shoulders back, and let them lead her toward the door. But she stopped, turned her head, looked at me. "Your daughter," she said. "What was her name?" The guards paused, confused. "Emma," I said. My voice cracked. "Her name was Emma." Kirath nodded once, slow and deliberate. "Emma Webb. I will remember her." Then they took her. I sat there for a long time after that, staring at the empty chains on the wall across from me. The light hit them wrong now, no iridescent scales to catch and scatter it. Just grey metal and shadows. I'd told her she was beautiful and meant it. She'd said she'd remember my daughter. 2 broken things sharing weight for just a moment before the universe pulled them apart again. I should have let it end there. Should have accepted that some gestures of kindness are just that. Gestures, brief and meaningless in the face of conversion and oblivion. But I didn't. Because somewhere in the last 2 years of momentum and numbness, something had shifted. She'd called me broken, like it was a compliment. She'd taken my daughter's name and promised to carry it. And I realized, sitting alone in that cell, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to care if someone lived or died. I cared now. I cared that Kirath, who'd survived wars and rejection and chains, was about to be erased. I cared that the universe was about to lose someone who still knew how to be real. I cared that she'd looked at me, a stranger, and seen something worth responding to. It was terrifying. It was the first thing that had felt like purpose since Emma died. So I did the stupidest thing possible. I started paying attention. The guards came twice a day, shift change at 600 and 1800 hours, like clockwork. 3 guards minimum, never fewer. Neural dampeners on any non-human prisoner. Standard protocol. Conversion processing happened in sub-level 4, restricted access, biometric locks. I had no weapons, no allies, no leverage. What I had was the fact that I'd stopped caring about consequences 2 years ago, and that made me unpredictable in ways the Dominion didn't account for. I also had 8 days until my own conversion. 6 now, with hers moved up. If I was going to do something phenomenally stupid, I had a narrow window. The first step was getting information. The Dominion was efficient, but efficiency breeds routine, and routine breeds gaps. I started talking to the guards, not all of them. Just the one who looked tired. The junior enforcer, who pulled double shifts and had the kind of 1,000-yard stare that said he'd seen too many conversions and stopped sleeping well. His name was Sarath, translated through the implant as something close to Keeper of Lesser Truths, which I assumed was a rank designation. Sarath, I said during the evening check, voice casual. The dragon woman, Kirith. Why'd they move up her processing? He glanced at me, surprised I knew his name. Flagged for resistance. She refused conditioning protocols. What protocols? Voluntary memory surrender. They offered to let her keep certain non-combat recollections if she complied. She refused. Why? He shrugged, scales rippling. She said memory is not negotiable, even the painful ones. He paused, then added quieter, stupid. Conversion will take them anyway. Maybe she wanted to choose, I said. Sarath looked at me for a long moment, then moved on. But I'd learned something important. Kirath had been given a choice and spat on it. That took the kind of spine most people lost decades before their bodies wore out. It also meant she was still fighting, even if it looked like surrender. The second step was understanding the layout. My cell had one window, high and narrow, reinforced glass, looking out onto a corridor. I couldn't see much, but I could hear. Ventilation hum, guard comm chatter, the distant mechanical whine of conversion equipment cycling up in sub-level 4. I listened. 3 days before her scheduled processing, I heard something useful, a maintenance report. Sub-level 4's primary biometric lock was glitching, cycling between secure and bypass modes randomly. They'd logged it as low priority since the secondary lock still functioned. 1 lock instead of 2. Still impossible, but less impossible. The third step was leverage. I had nothing the Dominion wanted. I was a washed-up human diplomat with no intel value, scheduled for conversion because it was easier than releasing me. But I had something they didn't expect. I knew how humans thought under pressure, and I knew the Dominion thought they'd broken me. They were wrong. That night, I triggered the emergency medical alert in my cell, faked a seizure, violent enough that the monitors screamed code red. Guards flooded in. 3 of them. Neural dampeners ready, even though I was human, and those didn't work on us. While they stabilized me, I palmed the access chip from Sarath's belt. He was the closest, distracted, and the chip was small enough that he didn't notice the weight shift. It wouldn't get me far, probably just to the main corridor, but it was something. 2 days before Kirath's conversion, I stopped eating, stopped drinking. Made myself weak enough that they'd have to move me to medical for IV fluids or risk me dying before processing. They moved me. Medical was 1 floor above detention, connected by a single elevator and 2 stairwells. I memorized the route, counted the seconds, noted every camera angle. Then I waited. The night before her conversion, I lay in the medical bay, IV drip in my arm, and made a choice. I could let her be erased, let myself be erased, let the universe grind us both down into nothing and call it efficiency. Or I could fight, not for victory, not for escape, just for the chance to tell her one more time that she mattered, that someone saw her and thought she was worth the risk. I pulled the IV out. Blood dripped onto the floor, slow and steady. I stood, legs shaking, and used Sarath's stolen access chip on the door. It opened. I moved through the corridors like a ghost, every step calculated, every breath controlled. Alarms would come eventually. Guards would flood the halls. I'd be caught, converted early, erased. But not yet. Sub-level 4 was colder than I expected, air sharp and sterile. The biometric lock was glitching, just like the report said, screen flickering between red and green. I waited for green, slapped my palm against the scanner, and prayed to gods I didn't believe in. It opened. Inside, Kirath was strapped to a conversion chair, wings spread and clamped, neural crown already fitted to her skull. The machine hummed, ready to begin. Her eyes opened when I stumbled in. Golden and sharp and disbelieving. "Marcus." Her voice was rough, drugged. "Why are you—" "I don't know," I said, because it was the truth. I moved to the control panel, hands shaking. "I couldn't let them erase you. You are a fool. You will be caught, converted. Everything you are will be—" "I know." I started hitting buttons, desperate, no idea what I was doing. "But you remembered, Emma. You said memory isn't negotiable, so I'm here to make sure you get to keep yours." She stared at me, something breaking in her expression. "There is no escape, human. Even if you free me, we will not make it 10 steps." "I know." "Then why?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Scales dulled by captivity, but still catching light. Eyes fierce even through the drugs. A woman who'd fought wars and survived rejection, and still chose to hold on to pain because it was real. "Because you're beautiful," I said. "And the universe doesn't get to erase that." Alarms screamed. Footsteps thundered in the corridor. I kept hitting buttons and something clicked. The neural crown disengaged, clamps released. Kirath fell forward, catching herself on claws that were still filed down, but still hers. "Run," I said. She didn't. Instead, she grabbed me, one massive claw wrapping around my arm, and pulled me close. "If we run, we die together," she said. "If we stay, we are converted. There is a third option." "What?" Her eyes burned. "We fight." And for the first time in 2 years, I smiled. The guards hit the door 3 seconds later, but Kirath was already moving. Even drugged, even chained for months, even filed down and broken, she was faster than anything human. Her tail swept low, catching the first enforcer at the knees. He went down hard, skull cracking against the floor. The second guard raised a neural dampener. Kirath's wing snapped out, membrane torn but functional, and slammed into his chest with enough force to crush ribs. He collapsed, gasping. The third guard was smarter. He went for me. I didn't have her speed or strength, but I had 2 years of not caring whether I lived, and that made me vicious in ways that surprised him. I grabbed a medical tray, swung it into his face, followed through with my elbow into his throat. He staggered, and Kirath finished it with a headbutt that left him unconscious. Silence, except for our breathing. "You fight poorly," she said, blood on her snout. "Yeah, well, I'm a diplomat." "You were a diplomat. Now you are a fool with a death wish." She flexed her claws, testing them, still blunt, but enough. "There are 12 more guards between us and the exterior airlocks. We will not make it." "Probably not. And yet you freed me." "Yeah." She looked at me, head tilted. "Why do you not fear death, Marcus Webb?" I thought about Emma, about the colony message, about 2 years of walking through a world that felt like it was happening to someone else. "Because I'm already gone," I said. "This is just my body catching up." Kirath made that sound again, the one between a growl and a hum. "Then we are the same. I have been dead since the Ember Courts cast me out. Since they looked at my scales and saw only age. Since they declared me obsolete." She straightened, wings spreading despite the torn membranes. "If we are already ghosts, let us be ghosts that bite." We moved fast, Down corridors I'd memorized, past checkpoints I'd counted. Alarms screamed, bulkheads sealed. The Dominion's efficient system locked down around us like a fist. But we'd surprised them, and surprise bought seconds. Kirath led now, moving with purpose, not toward the airlocks, but deeper into sub-level 4. I followed, confused. Where are we going? If we run, they catch us. If we hide, they find us. So we go where they do not expect. Which is the vault. She stopped at a reinforced door, claws moving over the panel with surprising precision. I was not imprisoned for war crimes, Marcus. That was a convenient lie. Then what? I know where the Dominion keeps its secrets. Her eyes met mine, and I was close enough to their primary intelligence networks to learn what they hide from the galaxy. The door opened. Inside was a data core, massive and ancient, crystalline storage matrices glowing with information centuries old. Kirath moved to a terminal, claws dancing across holographic interfaces designed for saurian physiology. What are you doing? Ensuring they cannot erase what I know. If they convert me, this dies with me. If they convert you, no one will know what humanity is truly facing. Be facing from what? She pulled up a file. Images scrolled past. Fleet movements, star charts, strategic projections, a slow-moving invasion force positioned at the edge of human space. The Dominion has been preparing for war with your species for 6 years, Kirath said quietly. Not open war, infiltration, conversion. They plan to take your colony worlds one by one, turn your populations into compliant drones, and absorb humanity into their labor systems. I stared at the data. Hundreds of ships, thousands of conversion facilities, timelines that started in 3 months. Why tell me this? Because you asked why I was imprisoned. I discovered this. I objected. The Dominion does not tolerate objection from obsolete assets. She looked at me. I was going to die with this knowledge locked in my skull. You have given me a chance to release it. We can't transmit from here, they'll block it. No, but we can copy it. She gestured to a data chip in the terminal. Physical storage, unencrypted. If you take this and survive, I'm not leaving you. You must. No. Her eyes narrowed. Do not be sentimental, human. This is larger than... I don't care. The words came out harder than I intended. I didn't free you so you could martyr yourself for intelligence data. I freed you because you deserve to not be erased. I am one life. This information could save millions of yours. Then we both survive and deliver it. Impossible. Probably. I moved beside her. But I've done a lot of impossible things in the last hour. Let's see how far we can push it. For a moment I thought she'd argue. Then something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or something closer to hope. You are insufferable, she said. Yeah. She copied the data onto 3 separate chips, handed me 2. Redundancy. If one of us falls, we both make it. You are delusional. Emma used to say that too. I pocketed the chips. She was usually right. Kirath paused, claws still on the terminal. Your daughter. Was she brave? Terrified of the dark. Wouldn't sleep without a light on. I smiled despite everything. But she'd stand up to anyone if she thought they were wrong. 8 years old, yelling at colony administrators about water rations. She sounds exhausting. She was perfect. Kirath's tail curled slightly, a gesture I didn't understand but felt important. I had nestlings once. 2. They died in the Third War, before they could fly. Her voice went quiet. I remember their first attempts. Clumsy, determined. They fell so many times. I'm sorry. Do not be. They died doing what they loved, defying gravity. She turned from the terminal. Come. If we are both to survive, we need a better plan than running. You have one? No. But you freed me from a conversion chair with no plan, so clearly we are both comfortable with improvisation. We moved back into the corridors, and I realized something had changed. She wasn't just tolerating me anymore. She was talking to me like I mattered, like my presence was worth accounting for in her calculations. It felt unfamiliar, dangerous, like waking up from anesthesia and discovering you could still feel pain. We made it 2 more corridors before the ambush. 6 guards this time, positioned at a choke point, neural dampeners raised. No hesitation. Kirath took the hit first, neural feedback designed to overwhelm her nervous system. She collapsed, convulsing. I rushed forward, stupid and desperate, and caught a dampener blast meant for her. It didn't work on humans the same way, but it felt like every nerve ending catching fire at once. I went down, vision whiting out. Through the haze, I heard the lead guard speaking. Subjects contained. Prepare for conversion. Escalate to priority processing. Psychological resistance confirmed. They dragged us to separate cells, reinforced this time. No windows, no chains, just neural inhibitor fields that made thinking feel like wading through tar. I couldn't see Kirath, but I could hear her breathing, slow and strained, 2 cells over. "Marcus," she said, voice barely audible. "Yeah, you should have run." "Probably." Silence. Then, "Why did you call me beautiful?" I leaned my head back against the wall, exhausted. "Because it's true. Because you're the first thing I've seen in 2 years that felt real. Because..." I stopped, trying to find words that weren't completely insane. "Because I looked at you and saw someone who'd survived everything and still chose to feel it. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I am old, scarred, rejected by my own people. Yeah, and you're still here, still fighting, still you." I closed my eyes. "That matters." Another silence. "You are very strange, Marcus Webb." "I know. I think..." She paused, and I heard something shift in her breathing. "I think if I had met you before the wars, before the rejection, before I learned to expect nothing, I would not have known what to do with you. And now? Now I am old enough to recognize a gift when it is given." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just listened to her breathe. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt wrong in the inhibitor field. Eventually, footsteps approached. I expected guards, conversion transport. The end. What I got was Sirath. He stood outside my cell, alone, hand on the control panel but not activating it. Just looking at me. "You stole my access chip," he said. "Yeah." "You freed a war criminal." "She's not a war criminal, she's a whistleblower." "You assaulted 6 guards, caused a facility lockdown, accessed restricted intelligence." "Yeah." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he deactivated the inhibitor field. I stood slowly, disbelieving. "Why?" "Because I saw the data you accessed." His voice was careful, controlled. "Because I have been a keeper of lesser truths for 7 years, and I have watched conversion after conversion, and I stopped asking why we do this." He looked at me. "You freed her because you thought she deserved to keep her memories. That is not strategy. That is not survival. That is simply... stupid." "Kind." He opened the cell door. "The Dominion does not value kindness. Perhaps that is why it is worth preserving." He moved to Kirath's cell, opened it. She stumbled out, still weak from the dampeners, but her eyes were sharp. "Why help us?" she asked. "Because I am tired of erasing people." Sirath handed me a data pad. "Service tunnel, sub-level 2. Leads to an emergency airlock. There is a shuttle docked, unarmed but functional. You will have approximately 8 minutes before the lockdown reroutes to cover that exit." "You'll be caught," I said. "Yes." "They'll convert you." "Probably." He smiled, a strange expression on saurian features. "But I will have chosen it. That is worth something." Kirath stepped forward, placed one claw on his shoulder. "What is your name? Your true name, not your rank." He hesitated, then spoke something the translator couldn't process. A series of clicks and harmonics that felt older than the Dominion itself. "I will remember it," Kirath said. "Good." Sarath stepped back. "Go. And when you deliver that data, tell your people that not all of us agree with what the Dominion has become." We ran. The service tunnels were cramped, poorly lit, and exactly what we needed. I could hear alarms above and below, guards mobilizing, but Sarath had bought us a window. 8 minutes. Kirath moved ahead, wings folded tight to fit the narrow space. I followed, lungs burning. "Marcus," she said, not slowing. "Yeah, if we survive this, if we reach human space, deliver the data, warn your people, what will you do?" I thought about that, about Emma, about 2 years of momentum and numbness, about a dragon woman who'd looked at me and seen something worth saving. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe try being alive again." She made that sound, the growl hum. "That is a beginning." We reached the airlock. The shuttle was there, exactly as Sarath said. Small, unarmed, designed for supply runs, but it had engines and life support. 7 minutes. Kirath moved to the pilot controls, claws adjusting for a system designed for smaller hands. I strapped into the co-pilot seat, hands shaking. "Do you know how to fly this?" I asked. "I flew warships in 3 conflicts. This is a cargo shuttle. So yes, so we will not die immediately." 6 minutes. The airlock cycled. Space opened before us, cold and infinite. Kirath's claws moved across the controls, and the shuttle lurched forward. Behind us, the detention facility lit up with pursuit craft launching. 5 minutes. "They are faster than us," Kirath said, calm. "Can we outrun them?" "No." "Can we outmaneuver them?" "Unlikely." "Can we—" "We survive by being unpredictable." She banked hard, diving toward a nearby asteroid field. "Hold on." The shuttle screamed into the rocks, and I understood what she meant. The Dominion pilots were efficient, trained, coordinated. They expected logic. Kirath flew like someone who'd survived wars by refusing to die. Chaotic, aggressive, using the asteroids like weapons, forcing the pursuit craft to choose between following and self-preservation. 2 chose wrong. Explosions bloomed behind us. 4 remained. "Marcus," Kirath said, voice tight. "I need you to do something." "What?" "The data chips. Upload them to the shuttle's comm system." "Why?" "Because if we die, the information dies with us. But if we transmit it now, broadcast to every human frequency in range, at least some of it will survive. They'll intercept it, decode it, know we sent it." "Yes, I understood. Transmitting would mark us, make us priority targets, ensure the Dominion threw everything at stopping us. It would also save the data." I pulled out the chips, hands steady despite everything, and loaded them into the comm system. "Ready?" I said. "Then send it. And Marcus, yeah?" Her golden eyes met mine just for a second. "Thank you for seeing me." I hit transmit. The galaxy lit up with warnings, intercepts, furious Dominion comms demanding we cease transmission. We didn't. The data flooded outward, unencrypted, raw, reaching every human monitoring station within 3 light years. The remaining pursuit craft closed in, weapons hot, and Kirath smiled. The first shot clipped our starboard engine. The shuttle lurched, alarms screaming, and I felt the gravity compensators fail for half a second before they kicked back online. Kirath's claws moved fast, rerouting power, compensating for the damage with instincts that came from decades of combat flying. "How bad?" I asked. "We have 40% thrust, maneuverability compromised, life support intact." She banked hard, using an asteroid as cover. We will not reach human space at this speed. How far are we? 6 hours at full thrust, 14 at current capacity. The pursuit craft were closing. I could see them on the scanner, moving with coordinated precision, cutting off escape vectors. They're herding us, I said. Yes, away from human monitoring stations, into dead space. Kirath's voice stayed level, but her tail curled tighter. They will destroy us where no one can recover the wreckage. The transmission was sent. Your people have the data, but we... Another impact. This one worse. The port stabilizer exploded. We will not survive to see what they do with it. The shuttle spun, and she fought to regain control. Metal shrieked. Something in the back compartment depressurized with a hiss that made my ears pop. I looked at the scanner. 3 pursuit craft left, moving into position for kill shots. Kirath, I said quietly, I'm sorry I got you into this. You freed me from conversion. You gave me a choice. Her eyes stayed on the controls. That is worth dying for. I still wish... Marcus. She looked at me then, fully, and I saw something in her expression I hadn't seen before. Not just respect, something deeper. I have lived 73 years. I have fought wars, raised nestlings, served empires. I have been honored and discarded, praised and rejected, and in all that time, no one looked at me the way you did in that cell. Kirath, you saw me. Not my scales, not my age, not my usefulness. Just me. Her voice softened. That is a gift I did not know I needed until you gave it. The pursuit craft fired. She twisted the shuttle, impossibly fast, and the shot missed by meters. But the evasion cost us. The remaining engine sputtered, temperature spiking into the red. We have 2 minutes before total engine failure, she said. I looked at the scanner, then at her, then made a decision that would have seemed insane if I hadn't already spent the last 6 hours doing insane things. Can this shuttle survive atmospheric entry? She blinked. There is no planet within range. Yes, there is. I pulled up the nav display, zoomed out. That moon, the one they're herding us away from. That is a dead rock. No atmosphere, no resources, no monitoring stations, which means they think we won't go there. I met her eyes. But there's gravity. And if we're going to crash anyway, I'd rather do it on solid ground where we might survive than in space where we definitely won't. She stared at me, then at the moon, then back at me. This is your plan? It's a terrible plan. Yes, but it's a plan. Something like approval flickered across her face. You are learning to think like someone who refuses to die. She adjusted course, angling toward the moon. Hold on. The pursuit craft realized what we were doing and opened fire, no longer herding, just trying to kill us before we reached the surface. Kirath flew through the barrage like she was dancing. Wings metaphorically spread, even though there was no air to catch them. One shot hit, then another. The hull breached in 3 places. My seat restraints locked down automatically as decompression warnings shrieked. Marcus, Kirath said, voice strained. If we survive the crash, if you survive and I do not... Don't. Listen. If I do not survive, you must reach human space. Deliver the data. Warn them. She fought the controls as the moon's gravity took hold. Promise me. We're both surviving. Promise me. The moon's surface rushed up, gray and lifeless, and coming too fast. I promise, I said. She nodded once. Good. Now, brace. The impact was everything terrible compressed into 3 seconds, metal tearing, systems exploding. Gravity pulling in directions gravity shouldn't pull. I felt ribs crack, tasted blood, heard Kirath roar in pain as something in the cockpit collapsed. Then silence. I woke to darkness, and the smell of burning circuits. My head felt like it had been used as a battering ram. The restraints had released, and I was on the floor, or what used to be the floor. "Kirath?" My voice came out wrong. Throat raw. No response. Panic hit, sharp and immediate. I scrambled toward where she'd been, hands finding twisted metal, shattered glass, and then scales. Warm scales. "Kirath." I shook her, gentle at first, then harder. "Come on, don't do this. Not now." She groaned, a sound that rumbled through her whole body. "I am intact. You're alive. Approximately." She moved, slow and careful, wings folding against wreckage. "The shuttle is destroyed. We are stranded on a dead moon with no supplies, no communications, and the Dominion knows our location. So, not great. No?" She looked at me in the dim emergency lighting, blood on her snout, one wing torn worse than before. "But we are alive. That is more than I expected." I laughed, which hurt my ribs, but felt necessary. "Yeah, me too. We salvaged what we could from the wreckage. 2 days of emergency rations, a single functioning beacon, too weak to reach human space but strong enough that the Dominion would triangulate our position within hours. 1 medical kit, mostly intact. And the data chips, still in my pocket, somehow undamaged. Kirath moved us away from the crash site into a crater that provided cover. The moon had no atmosphere, but our suits had 8 hours of oxygen each. After that, "We're not going to make it, are we?" I said. She was quiet, staring up at the stars visible beyond the crater rim. "No, the Dominion will send a recovery team. They will find us before we can be rescued, and they will ensure we do not survive to testify about what we know. So we fought this hard, just to die on a rock." "Yes." She turned to me. "But we chose how we died. We chose to resist. We chose each other." Her tail curled around my leg, gentle. "That is not nothing." I looked at her. This dragon woman who'd been rejected, imprisoned, scheduled for erasure, and still found the strength to fight. Who'd shared her losses with me. Who'd called my kindness a gift. "Kirath," I said. "If we had more time, if the universe wasn't actively trying to kill us, I think I'd want to know you better." "Better than prison cellmates who crashed a shuttle on a dead moon?" "Yeah." She made that growl hum, but softer now. "I think I would like that too." She shifted closer, scales warm even through my suit. "In another life, perhaps. One where I was not considered obsolete and you were not already a ghost. Maybe in that life, I'd have told you that you're beautiful without it taking a prison break to work up the courage. Maybe in that life, I would have believed you." We sat like that, watching the stars, waiting for the inevitable. But something felt different. Less like ending and more like... The beacon beeped. Both of us froze. "That's not our beacon," I said. Kirath pulled out the scanner we'd salvaged, cracked screen flickering to life. "You are correct. That is..." Her eyes widened. "That is a human distress response beacon." "What?" "Your transmission. The data we sent. Someone received it." She adjusted the scanner. "A ship is in orbit. Human registry. They are responding to the Dominion pursuit craft." I stared at the scanner. They came for us. No, they came for the data. "But..." She stood, wings spreading despite the pain. "We are proximate to the data. That may be sufficient." The next hour was chaos. We activated our weak beacon, watched on the scanner as human ships engaged the Dominion recovery team. Explosions lit up the orbit, brief and bright. The humans were outnumbered but fighting dirty, using tactics the Dominion didn't expect. Classic humanity. A shuttle broke atmosphere, burning toward our position. We scrambled to the crater rim, waving, desperately hoping they'd see us before the Dominion did. They did. The shuttle landed hard, hatch opening before the engines even shut down. Marines poured out, weapons raised, scanning for threats. "We've got 2 survivors," one of them shouted. "Human and... what the hell is that?" "Friendly," I yelled. "She's friendly!" The Marines looked skeptical, but their commanding officer, a woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much, stepped forward. "You Marcus Webb?" "Yeah." "You sent the transmission? The Dominion invasion plans?" "We did. Both of us." She looked at Karath, assessing. "You're the source?" Karath straightened, despite her injuries. "I was an intelligence officer for the Saurian Dominion. I discovered their plans. They imprisoned me. This human freed me." She gestured at me. We escaped together. The officer was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Get them aboard. Medical now. And someone get me a secure line to Fleet Command. They're going to want to hear this." They carried us onto the shuttle, Kirath barely fitting through the hatch. Medics swarmed, scanning, injecting, stabilizing. I heard them talking about my ribs, about her wing damage, about shock and dehydration and minor radiation exposure. But all I could focus on was the fact that we were alive. We'd survived. The medical bay on the ship was clean and bright and nothing like the detention facility. They put me in one bed, Kirath in a reinforced cradle designed for larger species. She filled it completely, wings draped over the sides. I could see her from where I lay, and she could see me. "Marcus," she said after the medics left us alone. "Yeah? We are not dead. I noticed. I did not expect that. Me either." She made that sound again, the one I'd started to recognize as laughter. "What do we do now?" I thought about that. About Emma, whose memory I'd carried like a weight. About Kirath, who'd been discarded and decided to fight anyway. About the fact that I'd spent 2 years feeling nothing and the last 24 hours feeling everything. "I don't know," I said. "But I think I want to find out, with you, if you'll have me." Her eyes softened. "I am old, Marcus. Past breeding age. I cannot give you what humans typically want from companionship. I don't want typical. I want real. And you're the realest thing I've found in years. I am damaged, scarred. My people rejected me. Your people were idiots." She laughed, full and genuine this time. "Yes, they were." She extended one claw across the gap between our beds. I reached out, wrapped my hand around it. "Very well, Marcus Webb. Let us be real together. Let us see what comes of 2 broken things refusing to stay broken. Deal." The next days were a blur. Debriefings with fleet intelligence, medical treatments, security screenings. They verified the data, confirmed the Dominion invasion plans, started mobilizing defenses. Kirath provided context, tactical analysis, insider knowledge that would save countless lives. She was no longer obsolete. She was invaluable. And I was no longer a ghost. I was a witness, a co-conspirator. A diplomat who'd burned every bridge to save one person and accidentally warned humanity of an existential threat. They offered me a position, military liaison, intelligence consultant, a way to use what I'd learned, what I'd done. I said I'd think about it. What I really wanted was in the medical bay, recovering from 3 broken ribs, a shattered wing membrane, and 7 decades of being told she didn't matter. 3 weeks after the rescue, they cleared Karath for release. The wing would heal. The scales would regrow. The scars would remain. But she wore them differently now, not as shame, but as proof. We stood on the observation deck of the carrier, looking out at Earth. I'd never been. Had spent my whole life in colonies and stations and ships. But now, with the Dominion threat real and immediate, Fleet Command wanted key personnel closer to home. "It is very blue," Kirath said. "Yeah. Your people originated here, evolved here. She tilted her head. And yet you spread across the stars like you were never meant to stay in one place. We're stubborn like that. Yes, she looked at me. I am told that human society does not always accept unconventional relationships. True. And yet you persist in this. Yeah. Why? I thought about Emma, who'd taught me that love wasn't about what made sense. About Kirath, who'd looked at me in a cell and seen someone worth talking to. About the fact that I'd told her she was beautiful and meant it more than anything I'd said in years. Because you're worth it, I said, because I spent 2 years numb and you made me feel again. Because the universe told us both we were finished and we decided to prove it wrong. I took her claw, careful of the newly regrown scales. Because you're beautiful, Kirath, and I'm tired of pretending that doesn't matter. She leaned down, careful, and pressed her forehead against mine. It was awkward. Her skull was larger, her scales rough against my skin, but it felt right. Then let them stare, she said. Let them whisper. Let them question. Her eyes burned, golden and fierce. We survived a Dominion prison, a shuttle crash, and a moon with no atmosphere. Human social judgment is nothing. Damn right. We stayed like that for a while, watching Earth turn below us, and I realized something. I'd stopped being a ghost. Kirath had stopped being obsolete. We'd both stopped being the things other people had decided we were. We were just us, broken and scarred and real, and that was enough. The war came eventually. The Dominion invasion happened 3 months later, exactly as the data predicted. But humanity was ready. We fought dirty, improvised, refused to die when logic said we should. Classic humanity. I worked intelligence. Kirath advised on Dominion tactics. We lived on the carrier, in quarters barely large enough for her, and spent our nights talking about everything and nothing. Her wars. My daughter. The universe's terrible sense of humor. We didn't fix each other. Grief doesn't work that way, but we carried it together, and that made it bearable. 2 years into the war, the Dominion sued for peace. Not surrender, they were too proud for that, but an acknowledgement that humanity wouldn't be converted, wouldn't be absorbed, wouldn't be erased. We'd proven we were too stubborn to be convenient. The day the treaty was signed, Kirath and I were in our quarters. She'd been fitted with a prosthetic wing membrane, bioengineered and functional. She could fly again if she wanted. "What will you do now?" I asked. "The war's over. The Dominion's retreating. You could go anywhere." She looked at me, head tilted. "Where would I go?" "I don't know. Back to the Ember Courts? Prove them wrong about you being obsolete? They did not deserve me when I was young. They do not deserve me now that I am proven correct." She moved closer, tail curling around my waist. "Besides, I have already found where I belong." "Yeah?" "Yes. With a broken human who looked at me in a prison cell and saw something worth saving." Her eyes softened. "With someone who taught me that being discarded by fools does not make you discardable." I smiled. "You taught me something too." "What?" "That being alive hurts, but it's supposed to. And that's okay." We sat in silence, comfortable and real, and I thought about Emma, about how she'd want me to keep living, to find meaning again, to let people in. I'd done that. Not perfectly, not easily, but I'd done it. "Marcus," Kirath said quietly. "Yeah? Thank you for telling me I was beautiful. Thank you for believing me." She made that growl hum, the one that meant she was happy. "We are quite a pair, two discarded things rebuilding themselves." "Yeah, but we're rebuilding together. That's the difference." "Yes, that is the difference." Outside, ships moved through space, carrying people to new lives, new chances. The universe kept turning, indifferent and vast. But inside our quarters, two broken things had found each other and decided that was enough to build on. I'd lost a daughter, found a dragon, saved a species, learned to be alive again. It hadn't fixed everything. Emma was still gone. Kirath still carried scars. The universe was still cold and often cruel. But we'd chosen each other. Chosen to be real. Chosen to fight for something beyond survival. And that, in the end, was the most human thing possible. Refusing to be erased. Refusing to give up. Refusing to let the universe decide our worth. We were beautiful, both of us, in all our broken, stubborn, impossible glory, and that was worth everything.